Have I ever played you that song, Vish? The intro song, the whole song.
No. No, I don't think so.
I should share that. I should share that with you one time. I think you'd really like it. It's called "The Bastards Will Pay," and it's from my favorite Christian heavy metal band, Trouble, who was active in the late 70s and until like the mid 90s, I think. But yeah, they loved Jesus, but then they also loved sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they struggled to find that balance. So, but yeah, I miss you, Trouble, wherever you went. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my show. I'm Kip Davis. I'm a biblical scholar, and I'm a specialist in early Judaism and the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I stream every Friday at this time of the afternoon or evening, wherever you happen to be. Vish and I are located here on the Pacific Coast, and it's 2 o'clock, and it's a lovely day. I went mountain biking yesterday. It's pretty great. Oh, hey, oh, LA. Nice. That's cool. Why you look like really, is it just me? Because you look like really
Yeah, it's
pixelated.
autofocus.
Oh, damn. That's crappy. Oh, wow.
Whatever.
We'll manage, I guess. I'm sorry, everybody, for that. But here we are. Welcome. It's a good day. It's a good day to be streaming. We're just continuing on today from where we left off last week, and this one is important, I think. So we're gonna stick with it today, and then we're probably not going to get through it all. So we're just sticking with it until we're done. And I know this is jeopardizing my very good friendship with my co-host Vish, because it sort of takes pieces of her soul away every time she has to listen to Michael Jones open his goddamn mouth. And I'm sorry, Vish, but I certainly appreciate your sacrifice and your internal struggle for the cause. So I'd ask how you are, but you're probably feeling, yeah. How is Kip feeling since Team Norway beat Team Listen, so I you know, I have a I am not such a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been a while, but I'm not such a raw patriotic sort of sports fan. I have my local team that I love, and I want everybody else to just crash and burn all the time. Back in the 90s and the aughts and like the 2000, most of like up through till like 2012, 2013, I was very much on the Team Canada bandwagon. And I was happy. I cheered when Team Canada won the Four Nations Cup a couple years ago. But I think since the Calgary Flames in 2012 and 2013 started to draft a lot of American players, and I started to like big fan of like Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace, Johnny. And some of these guys, I was like, my national allegiances started to shift, especially with respect to the fact that Connor McDavid plays for the Edmonton Oilers. That didn't help matters at all, right? So you know what, I was at home just working away when my good friend Matthew P. Monger, professor of Bible at MF Norwegian School of Theology, texted me to check in because Norway had just beaten Canada for the bronze medal, and I didn't even notice.
I was
like,
gonna
oh,
ask you if you heard from Matt Monger.
Yeah, right away. And I feel bad. I feel bad that I wasn't paying closer attention because it would have been funner for him if I was. He could have laughed at me a little harder. So yeah. So yeah, good job, Norway. Every now and then that's gonna happen. Way to go. You did that thing. Canada's gonna continue to dominate in international competition for the foreseeable future. You can't win them all, but you can win, 92% of them. There. That's but yeah, I mean, I think those sum up my feelings pretty well. So, there's probably a bunch of people here. Good to see you people. Dor Etgar, Shalom. And Shalom and Stevens and Lil. Lil is here, Lil of all trades. Treats for Dagon. I'll get him some treats when the video starts. How's that? Allegedly Fred is here. Cuneiform guy is here. No Way Yahweh is here. It's bad when we need another IP response. Yeah, and it's gonna be like this for a little while. John, it's good to see you. Budding Hebraist, noise ending, good to see you. And Teddy the Wonder Lizard. Hi, all. Been lurking for a while. First time. Hey, welcome to my channel. Welcome to the chat. I hope you find this to be a fun and a safe space. I think everybody here is pretty delightful. So yeah, enjoy. Shh, I was never here is here. I hope Deuteronomy 23:2 gets discussed in this stream because that was the verse I was hoping would be touched on for my unit question in a previous stream. And I'm afraid to say no, it's not. Sorry about that. But, it's important you know that in advance. So let's see. Bitcores is here. Another budding Hebraist, G Ward is here, or is Guard.
Guard.
Gaward.
It's Guard.
David, it's Guard. She's decided. Guard. It's Guard.
We talked about this. I asked if it was G Ward or Guard, and decided that Guard, being a very cool band, was cooler. So it's Guard.
And it's cooler. But yeah. So he is in my the religion department Hebrew class, learning Hebrew through the book of Jonah. So David Sinclair, Kip was just brawling with Bosnian soccer fans. So the stream was delayed a couple minutes. Yes, my son has been watching I believe this is Canada's first World Cup appearance as well. I might be wrong on that, but so he's been screaming his head off downstairs for most of the afternoon so far. Good to see you, Triceratops and Weirdo Rock, Hyrix, Evan. You're not late. I was yeah, no, we're none of us are ever actually late. Good to see you, Ian. Tree Climb Tad for $2 says, I, for one, am ready to be distinctly uninspired. Well, here's what I'm hoping. And I'll talk about this in a minute. I'm hoping that won't actually be the case. I'm hoping that inspiration will strike today. No thanks to Michael Jones, except for the fact that he's drawn our attention to this mess. Good to see you, Lizard Lass and India Moon. But did they fucking love the Bible? No, I don't actually think any of these people do. If they did, they would pay closer attention to what's going on and they wouldn't make shit up. But that's just me. Alias Fake Name, good to see you. The Reverend 44 and yeah, a bunch of you. Good. Wow, thanks guys. Thank you for coming out, everyone. And yeah. Are you ready to get into this, Vish? You got some things to talk about. Oh, hi, Dr. Davis, and hi, Vishanti. Yo, Vishanti, do you have plans to do a graduate degree after training for the rabbinate?
I was gonna do a graduate degree first, but long story, a lot of financial hurdles to overcome, and also trying to pick a school that I can attend that I don't have to toe the line of Zionism. ardently anti-Zionist. So
that's a tough
filtering
call.
out schools, that is quite challenging right now. So
Sure is.
I would like to. I've considered Washington. They have a actual like Sephardi studies program that's led by a wonderful Devin Narr, and I wouldn't mind studying under him. But we'll see. I would love to get a graduate degree. I would love to be able to, get a grant or stipends or a fellowship or something like that. But, it just depends. Part of my final project for this rabbinic path, it's going to be a lot of what I would have contributed had I just gone straight to graduate school. So we'll see if I end up publishing, and then maybe someone will be like, hey, do you want to come study here? We'll like pay you to do it. We'll see. Yeah.
I think it'd be great. You'd be great. But yeah. We'll see what happens. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's the thing is somebody says that they're glad that I'm anti-Zionist. Yeah, it's still the minority position within the Jewish community broadly, but we're building our own institutions and our own communal structures outside of nationalism. So I'm glad that we're kind of creating what we need, because mainstream spaces really don't want much to do with us, even after, almost 3 years of genocide, naked genocide. So whatever, listen, adapt or go extinct. We're just going to adapt, and we're going to move on, and we're going to do Judaism without nationalism. And if people don't like that, okay, bye.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
I was kind of, it is kind of my strong impression, right, is that, and I think this is probably because almost all of my Jewish friends are academics. And I think you're probably more prone to find, not that, I mean, there's plenty of Zionist Jewish academics, but I think you're probably more prone to find more anti-Zionist Jewish academics.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There is quite a stark generational divide when it comes to that, but
yeah,
they're kind of all over the spectrum. I'm connected with SBL and AAR's like non-Zionist and anti-Zionist like academic network, so I always make a point to go to a lot of thematically related presentations and papers when I'm at SBL and AAR. And Atalia Omer has been heading up a lot of really cool work, and they've managed to get some really, really cool academics on board to help get the word out and just say like, hey, it's not just the genocide, there's scholasticide too going on, and there's like, press being murdered. So this is affecting a lot of different people, and this is all, it's connected especially to like US imperialism and the way that we are like, we're just going to defund all education because if it's woke libtard stuff, can't handle this. It's play by play fascist takeover. It's the same exact crap, almost like step by step what the Nazis did. Burning down the Institute for Sexualwissenschaft, where they were literally doing some of the earliest investigations into like transgender and transsexual individuals.
Right.
And all that got burned down. So when people are like, oh, this trans thing just happened overnight, it's like, no, the Nazis burned this
it's an
shit
echo.
Like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's an echo.
Anyway.
So very true.
Yeah.
All right.
Open book test. I love that America's failing it. Woo!
Trey Clem Tab for $5 says, unfortunately, I don't think you can get a degree in David Lynch memes. You'd have that. I think if you'd have that one
I have
already.
That on lock.
Yeah. If you could.
Love me some David Lynch memes.
Yeah. Just wanted to. I thought, yeah. Good to see you, Ryan. While you were away, Ryan filled in. And did a great job. It was fun. So thanks for coming by. Okay, are we ready to get this going?
Wild at Heart is the best movie they've seen drunk. I actually have a quote from Wild at Heart on my little battle vest, and it's the one that's like, "This here jacket is an expression of my individuality and my belief in freedom." I thought that was a pretty good patch to stick on there. It's funny, and it's also semi-ironic, but yeah. Love me some.
All right. Lynch. Nice. Oh, it's a David Lynch thing. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Wild at Heart. It had Nick Cage and what's her face?
Was Wild at Heart was a David Lynch movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I remember it, but it was a great movie. But wow, neat.
What's her face? She's really tall. Come on, brain. I've been increasingly unable to remember names offhand, and I do not like that. No,
Gina Davis, right? No,
no. What's her face? She was in Jurassic Park.
Oh, Laura Dern. Is that
Laura Dern? Thank you.
Yes,
Laura Dern. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Jeremiah for $1.99 says, "I like to remember things my own way." Is that a David Lynch thing too?
And we'll have to like do a David Lynch marathon at some point.
Okay, at some point. I did flag this one before we start, and I think this is appropriate.
Yeah.
Protestant apologists fetishize the Bible. They do not love it. Correct. So, what's happening today? We're going to continue with this lecture on the Exodus, on the historicity of the Exodus and the Conquest that Michael Jones delivered, I believe, in Boston during ETS. And the reason I think that is because the church where he's speaking looks familiar to me from some other events that they did at ETS. I could be wrong, but I believe that's what's going on here. So he's just gone through a bunch of stuff for the Exodus. And what we're picking up here now, he's going to talk for a little bit about the Ark of the Covenant and then slide into all that, all that evidence for the biblical conquest that is supposedly out there. What's happening today, I sort of thought the best way to do this, and a lot of this is just because I was so irritated by seeing this when we started reviewing this video last week on the Friday show. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go back and look at it at some point after the stream. But what was really, really frustrating to me is that he would pull these little fragments of sentences out from the texts he was citing, just quote mining his way and Trojan sourcing his way through his presentation. So I have done a lot of reading this week. I've picked up, and here's the thing, like I've picked through a tiny handful of scholarly sources about the conquest of Canaan. But I think it's useful just to provide people a clear perspective of what scholars are actually saying about this, and why this presentation is just so goddamn ridiculous when you look at what scholars are actually saying. So we're going to watch and we're going to do lots of reading today. So I hope everybody is in the mood to read, because that's happening. All right. You got it queued up. What did I say? You got the timestamp.
I just went ahead and started. We were already at about this stage.
Oh yeah, let's do that. And honestly,
right about where we left off.
Oh, wait a minute. No. I need you to start at the 20-minute mark. Sorry. Cause I've got this amazing section from Scott Nagel's article about the Ark of the Covenant. So sorry about that.
Okay. Let's do.
Did we really get through the Ark time period right now?
Like, for example, look at the church we're in. Do you think this was built yesterday? No, of course not, because the stage would be bigger. There'd be fog machines up front here. There'd be, moving lights. No, this church was built over 100 years ago. It was built during the customs of the time in the 1800s. We can clearly see styles and architecture around it are not going to fit with modern church designs, right? So we can date churches based on time, right? That's the point. Well, the Ark of the Covenant, the same thing happened. In Egypt, furniture would update over time. We can tell when furniture was being built because customs changed over time. So David Falk, who's an Egyptologist, says the Ark of the Covenant as we know it from the Hebrew Bible is steeped in the culture and context of its time. Egyptians were really into Egyptian ritual furniture. Something like this. Zabar.
That's true.
Egyptians were really into Egyptian ritual furniture. It would be weird if they were into like Greek
like
Hittite
ritual furniture.
Or Hittite, yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
He's really dug the aesthetics of Akkadian ritual furniture. Like, come on, man.
That's right.
Funny.
You go to Egypt to
they loved Egyptian ritual furniture. And so they had dip at the end because they, just like we update customs and the way we build stuff over time, so did the Egyptians. So the Ark of the Covenant, as it most likely would have looked, would have been something like this. The poles are actually at the bottom. People sometimes you put them at the top. Most likely would have in the way we build stuff over.
Do you want to talk about what this image could really teach people about the influence for the Ark, how it was built and what its function was and how it was carried and all that?
Yeah, so I think if I'm hearing you correctly, you're keying in on the fact that this is like a throne, like a what do you call it? Like a portable throne. The pharaoh's being carried around here, and that's sort of that's the focal point of the Ark. And Esther Hamori is going to talk about this in a minute in something that I've got queued up to read. But it's basically the Ark is a representation. Certainly in some texts, I don't know about all of them, but certainly in some texts, as like the throne of God, the locus point of God's presence. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, I mean, when they're building it and there's two cherubim, the text says, God's like, oh, I'm going to dwell between those two cherubim. And when they carry it, they put poles in it and hoist it by the poles. And it's like, this would be a visual depiction of that idea.
Yeah.
So this is pretty directly influencing the Ark. It's like, okay, maybe there's not a human being sitting on it, but it's manifesting, the presence of that God. So, Pharaoh was, I guess, the presence of that God, so this is the parallel to that.
And like, guess what? Yeah, it's probably like the Ark of the Covenant is probably most closely influenced by Egyptian ritual furniture. It's true. I actually cracked open David Falk's coffee table book. I did, and I'll say it, right. Like he's probably right about more things than he's not in that book. Like it's not bad. I think he's right about the ways that he's the ways he's drawing comparisons on the Ark to other pieces of furniture in the Egyptian repertoire. And I think he's probably right too, that the Ark might be is most closely aligned to an emergence at the end of the Bronze Age. So I don't know if that's like, I wouldn't fix it as tightly as he does. And the one thing that he does in his book that I think is ridiculous is to set this all within a context of an actual Exodus and an actual Moses and an actual Aaron. So that stuff is dumb, but lots of the rest of the stuff that he has in there, he's probably right about it, right? So sure, Egyptian royal furniture that dates to around the end of the Bronze Age. We're good.
And I really wish that I didn't have to address this bullshit. But hey, Jimmy, stop.
You don't. We can just move on. Okay.
What
You don't.
Are they powering
good.
with electricity?
Time.
God.
So did the Egyptians. So the Ark of the Covenant, as it most likely would have looked, would have been something like this. The poles are actually at the bottom. People sometimes you put them at the top. Probably not likely. Probably would have been down here. This is the most likely way, based on what the Bible says, what the Ark of the Covenant would have looked like. And it would have been steeped in the Egyptian ritual culture of its time. So let's talk about this. So Egyptian ritual chests were used for transporting sacred objects. Okay? Egyptian sacred furniture often had long removable poles attached to the base. Often they were wood boxes covered with gold inside and out. They had a sacred cloth draped over and made a lid. It would be something like what we call the mercy seat. So the Ark's deconstruction and its dating of its symbol suggests the Ark was made no earlier than the reign of King Amenhotep III, so early 1300s, and no later than the end of the 20th dynasty. In other words, whoever built the Ark would have lived roughly around the 1200s or so in that general time period. Now, if I were to ask you, let's do a comparison here. So we live in America. Mexico's to the south. Israel was north of Egypt. I want you to build me a couch using the customs of Mexican-style furniture of the 1700s. Who could do it?
Hi.
You could.
Hi.
Yeah, I think the important point here to make is that not everybody could do it, but some people could, right? Some could do it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, what's up, Dan?
Hey,
the Ark
good to
was
see you, Dan.
probably a shrine model. In my book, I provided an illustration of a shrine model found in Megiddo. It was a box that had carabiner at the corners. Hey,
Oh, that's
very
cool. Nice.
Wait, is
I
that,
like that.
the Bible says so, or is that the monograph, Adonai's Divine Images?
Yeah, let us know.
Because one of those is free access.
That's true.
Right.
No Google, no libraries. If the book of Exodus is not reliable, or it was written much later in Israel, they would never have designed.
Hell yeah, open access. Let's go, baby.
All right.
Yay.
The Ark the way it's designed. Would never have done it. They would. That's been incredibly hard to get accurate. But based on the best available understanding of what we found in modern archaeology, the Ark lands solely in the 1200s or so, around that time.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with noting that the Ark resembles pieces of Egyptian royal furniture that stem from the late Bronze Age, but I don't think you can limit the terminus of that so cleanly, especially not if you think the Ark didn't necessarily come from Egypt. Here's the thing. There was a ton of ongoing Egyptian influence throughout the Levant for a long time after the Ramesside period. And the funny thing about how this works a lot of times in different cultures and different areas is when a dominant culture has an influence on a smaller group of people or a smaller region, and then the trend fades in the place of its origin. It doesn't necessarily fade as quickly in these outposts. It holds on for a lot longer. Sometimes it becomes adopted and ingrained directly into the new culture. That's kind of how this works. So I don't think this is a good argument that within Egypt we see this ritual furniture passing out of trend, I guess. I don't think that holds for everywhere. Yeah. We can continue.
And even non-Christians will acknowledge this. So Scott Nogel doesn't believe an Exodus happened. Says exactly how and when the object became an aperture of Israelite cult is difficult to say, since biblical texts mythologize the Ark's creation. Nevertheless, archaeological evidence suggests that the late Bronze Age provides the best opportunity. So even he acknowledges.
All right.
Someone doesn't believe the Exodus happened. Whoever designed this mythological Ark, it's based on a time period of the 1200s. What are the odds?
Do you think? I was just thinking, do you think we should maybe look at this whole
Oh yeah.
sentence and maybe a
Oh,
paragraph?
certain. Mhm.
Because I've got it here, and this is the thing that is most irritating. So here's Scott Nogel's
Are we about to get Trojan
article.
sourced?
In a manner of speaking, I think so. And this is what
Okay.
I want everybody, as we're going through this video, right? And as Michael will cite the occasional scholar to support his ideas, many of whom do not agree that there was an exodus or a conquest of Canaan. You should be asking yourself why. Why do they promote this idea that Michael wants to latch onto, but then end up rejecting any, commitment to an historical exodus or conquest? These are the questions that people should be asking. Did you have something to say before I read this, Vish?
Well, go for it.
All right. So I'm starting here on the second paragraph, which is where Michael started. And we're going to look at footnote 66 here, which is really important. Exactly how and when the object became an appurtenance of the Israelite cult is difficult to say, since biblical texts mythologize the ark's creation. Nevertheless, archaeological evidence suggests that the late Bronze Age provided the best opportunity because it saw an increased Egyptian presence in the Levant. Now, Michael cut off the last bit of that sentence, and there is this footnote 66, right at the end of the quotation that he read, and it's a sizable note here, right? Whoops, I went too far. You can see this. It's a sizable note. Shall we read this? I think we should.
Small, but yeah, go for it.
Let's see if I can make it a bit bigger. Yeah, I can. Here we go. Okay, a little bit bigger there. Okay,
Yay!
Can I go over? But I can't. Why can't I go? I don't like that,
scroll
though.
button at the bottom of your
I don't know why I don't see it. It's not working. That's annoying. So unfortunately that's not going to work as well. People are going to have to just take my word for it, I guess, if they can't read it. Okay. Sorry. Note 66. It is not my intention to enter the debate concerning the historicity of the Exodus. The subject has been covered amply by biblical scholars, Egyptologists, and archaeologists, and little by way of consensus has emerged, as can be seen by many of the essays in this volume. This is a huge book that's kind of an exhaustive and multi-technical, interdisciplinary review of the most features of the Exodus. It's a very good book. Where was I? Some suggest that it was a plural phenomenon that took place in stages over time. Others view it as a single but much smaller event. Some scholars identify the nascent Israels with the marauding Haparu, though in more recent years, the Shasu have become the comparative group of choice. See Greenberg, Givian, Rifford, and these other ones. Dating the Exodus has proven even more difficult, though most positivist views place it sometime between the 14th and the 12th centuries BCE. In my view, while some of the Proto-Israelites might have lived in settlement communities in Egypt, such as the house of Joseph, the Levites, and perhaps elements of the Benjamite and Judahite tribes, and others might have been among the Shasu, the overwhelming archaeological evidence suggests an indigenous late Bronze Age Canaanite origin for most of the Israelites. I sure hope everybody heard me when I said that. In general, I will concur with Weinstein, who remarks, quote, if there was an historical exodus, it probably consisted of a small number of Semites migrating out of Egypt in the late 13th or early 12th century BCE, ultimately settling in southwest Canaan, where the Egyptian heritage would allow them to melt into the local populace. Oh, that's the whole note there. I guess I didn't have to shrink it. So, yeah. Scott Nagel thinks that the Ark of the Covenant potentially finds its best place of origin in late Bronze Age Egypt, and is rather emphatic in noting that he is in agreement with the overwhelming archaeological evidence, which suggests that the Israelites were indigenous late Bronze Age Canaanites. I'm going to continue reading some of this, though. The Egyptians built garrisons, administrative offices, and Egypto-Canaanite temples to facilitate the collection of grain. The Canaanite elites, meanwhile, often sought to emulate Egyptian customs. Of course, they did not adopt Egyptian practices wholesale, but adapted them to fit their own religions, as Beth Nakai observes. These temples blended Egyptian structural and decorative elements with Canaanite architectural forms. Egyptian ritual and other objects were found alongside Canaanite cultic paraphernalia. Iconography often exhibited qualities of synthesis rather than exclusivity, but in general, the gods and goddesses of Canaan prevailed. The late Bronze Age also saw movements of Canaanites and Egyptians in both directions, and it is at this time that the Merneptah Stele records the earliest written evidence for the Israelites in Canaan. This was a formative and flexible period in the history of Israelite religion, as it also saw the gradual fusion of the Canaanite god El with Yahweh. However, of particular relevance here are the great many seals, scarabs, and other objects found in Canaan, which Otmir Keel has shown attest to the Canaanites' fascination with Memphis and its god Ptah, also known by his syncretic name Ptah Soker Osiris. Ptah Soker Osiris was at once the creator, the son, and judge of the underworld, and he was the patron god of craftsmen. Like Yahweh, he created the world by fiat and was a god of justice who rewarded the righteous and punished sinners with death. It is in this context of Egyptian Canaanite exchange, Israelite religious syncretism, and Levantine interest in Ptah Soker Osiris that I envision the Israelites' adaptation of the Egyptian bark. Those features, functions, and associations that the Ark shared with its prototype represented facets of a shared taxonomy, aspects that made sense in both Egyptian and Israelite religious contexts before the object was integrated. Thus, the Ark retained its significance as a throne and a footstool and as the symbol of God's presence, and it continued to be a source of oracles. By calling the object an Aron, that's the Hebrew name for it, the Israelites retained the Ark's chthonic associations that resonated with the priestly conception of El Yahweh as a creator god to whom the first fruits are offered in Leviticus 23:9-14. On the other hand, those features that did not resonate with the priestly conception of God were refashioned or reconceptualized. Thus, the object's connection to a boat was obscured by referring to it as a throne and footstool, and by naming it an Aron, which suggests its use as a coffin. These labels serve a dual purpose. As throne without a statue, the Ark visually conveyed the aniconic nature of Yahweh. As a casket without a body, it ingrained the notion of Yahweh as a God who cannot die. Concomitantly, the deposition of the tablets into the Aron replaced any suggestion of a divine judge of the underworld with objects that represented Yahweh's role as divine judge and lawgiver. Thus, Yahweh became the ruler of the entire cosmos from the heavens to the underworld, and threshing became an idiom for the judgment and dismemberment of Yahweh's enemies. So there we go. This is what Scott Nagel thinks about the Ark and its connection to Egypt. And guess what we're not, everybody is seeing what I'm seeing here. He's not talking about the Exodus for obvious reasons, right? I mean, he points it out there in the footnote. The strong scholarly consensus here is that the Exodus, certainly the Canaanite conquest of Canaan, are things that did not happen. The Israelites were always Canaanites that were supplemented by other groups of people coming in from the outside. This and bringing traditions in, and these things melding into the larger culture. But none of this is stuff that even enters the fray of whatever the fuck Michael Jones is talking about. That's a problem.
Really quickly, Jeremiah for 199, Lynchian lighting and setting, and Ann Stevens gifted 10 Kip Davis membership, so you can use the little mud Kip Davis emoji, which is pretty cute.
There's other emojis.
Jeremiah for 199. The Egyptians had Ethan Allen furniture money.
Oh my God. I used to love going there when I was a kid. We never bought anything whenever we went to Ethan Allen because, right, like who can afford it? But wow, was it fun to wander around and look at how the other half lives.
Yeah. Guard came up with some lyrics. Dig through the scripture and burn through the blessed myrrh. Sand on the back of my Merkava.
That's pretty great.
Good stuff. Jack says they hate when Mike quote mines his opponents and acts like everyone has to agree with that one opponent's supposed concession.
Exactly what's happening here, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that is somewhere up there.
it.
Katie Lewis, I think, was saying that, when we're talking about Egypt, what region and era are you talking about? Because there was a long period where, quote, Egypt went all the way up into parts of Canaan. So,
very much so, yeah.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. So let's move on now. Let's talk about the conquest, because again, we had Semites in Egypt around the the early 1200s, and they left. They abandoned Avaris. So where did they go? Well, we would say there was a conquest of Canaan. Do we have evidence of that?
Nope. End of video. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, and now that he's already built this flimsy argument about Avaris, he's just taking that for granted. It's just a house of cards here, man.
It sure is.
Well, let's go into this a little bit here. So if the Exodus happened around 1265, we should expect to find a conquest around 1225, right? So that's where we got to look, around that time period, right? Now, what we are told by the experts is there's no evidence of a conquest either, because we don't see massive cities being burned. We should be seeing city after city destroyed, burned, plunder by the Israelites coming in. And we don't see that. Case closed, no conquest, right?
That's...
I'm sorry, what does the Bible say, though?
Yeah, that's not exactly...
That's not the reason.
accurate. That's kind of a straw man.
Yes, it's very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get into some of the problems as we move forward here, but it is not just one thing, right, that scholars are looking at. There's a wide range of problems with aligning the biblical text to the material culture and the archaeological record and the historical record of what's happening in the Levant in the 13th century BCE. So we'll just put that out there.
Does the Bible say they burned city after city after city after city? No, does not. It says 3 sites were burned. So real quick, they burned Jericho, Ai, and Hazor.
Hatzor.
Those are the 3.
Hatzor.
What he does say, though, is he says, basically, you're going to inherit that land. You're going to live in houses you didn't build, live in cities you didn't build, reap from vineyards you did not plant.
And what you know it, that exact text is weaponized today. People's justification comes after they've already, taken over this stuff, which is largely what's happening here. If you move into a site that's been abandoned or has already been destroyed at some period before, or it's even sparsely populated, you could just move right in and then go, actually, we conquered this because it's our divine right. Who's going to tell you that didn't happen? They certainly weren't doing archaeology back then, so...
Yeah.
Ugh.
This says this in Deuteronomy and Joshua over and over again. So if that's the case, we shouldn't expect to see any major changes in terms of the structures of Canaan, right? They just moved in and they took over things. That was the goal of the conquest. And again, they only burned 3 cities.
I want you to pause it.
Jericho, Ai, and Hazor.
I want everybody to think about what he said. Hazor. Thank you. We shouldn't expect to see any major changes to the structures of Canaan if the Israelites came in from outside after spending 400 years apparently in Egypt and they just moved in. Does that sound right to you, Vish? Because
it's hard for me to tell sometimes what his actual argument is, because I've watched enough videos of people debunking him and responding to him that when you try to pin him down on a claim, he'll go, well, that's not what I was actually saying. And then he'll run off to another thing and try to weasel his way out of it.
That's fair. To my ear, because this is what we do see within the archaeological record. And one of the major problems with the conquest from outside models of the origins of the Israelites is the fact that there is just so much continuity, cultural continuity from the Bronze Age into the Iron Age. That's kind of a major deal. It suggests that the people who were there were always there and they continued to be there. And they just continued on as they were. Shit's happening around them, no question. But at no point does it actually look from within the archaeological record that there was a displacement of one people by another people group. You should see that happening. You should be able to detect that in what has been preserved through archaeology. So I'm going to bring this up. This is from Christian Frevel's History of Ancient
Thank you, Gordon
Israel.
Loves Science, gifting some more memberships. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gordon Loves Science. You guys are very generous. I appreciate it a great deal. Just make sure. So I'm reading. Okay. I got a couple selections here from Frevel to read. Starting with this paragraph here. In any discussion of the conquest of the land, it is essential to understand the conceptual contrast between an Israel that entered the country as an ethnic entity from outside, and an Israel that only gradually formed within the country and emerged therefrom as a new ethnic entity. Expressed in technical terms, one may speak of an allochthonous, coming from outside, and allogeneic, originating outside, and an indigenous, emerging regionally culture. Recent research has shown that Israel is no different from its neighbors in that respect. Quote, with the exception of the Philistines, all the subsequent peoples of Palestine, for example, the Moabites, the Ammonites, as well as the Judeans and the Israelites, are predominantly indigenous. All of the subsequent peoples of Palestine are predominantly indigenous. And an allochthonous origin is by no means undisputed any longer, even for the Philistines. The process of transition from the Canaanite urban culture to the Israelite village culture is part of a long-term development in the southern Levant in which To put it a little more poetically, the rhythm of history remains recognizable. Just moving on here to the next page. Any migration of larger parts of the population as a background for the emergence of Israel must be ruled out. Israel neither came from Egypt nor from the Transjordan to the whole country of Samaria on a large scale, as was recently brought back into the discussion on the basis of ethnographic studies. This also applies to the transition from the Late Bronze Age to the Iron Age for the migrations of the patriarchs. There were migrations due to climactic and political shifts, and this includes people groups crossing the Jordan, but not on a large scale, such as a mass migration of peoples, an exodus, or a conquest. The assumption that the archaeological findings from the Iron One period do not presuppose an extensive population exchange, but rather contradict it. It is now a consensus. Other explanatory models must be sought for the emergence of Israel on Palestinian soil. The reason for the change lie in political and cultural developments of the Late Bronze Age, which led to the collapse of the economic system and thus of the Late Bronze Age city-state culture. Just a sec here. I seem to have lost my Vish. Okay. Oh no. Vish's internet just died. So I'm hoping that that comes back. I shall attempt to carry on my own without her if she can't make it. But Godspeed, Vish, and I hope you I hope you're back. So I have another selection here to read from Frevel. I think it's this one. Here he's talking about continuity and discontinuity within the city-state culture. At first glance, the settlement patterns between the Late Bronze Age to the Iron Age give the impression that a complete change occurred. The published survey data report that the number of settlements in the highlands increased approximately 500% between the Late Bronze Age and the Iron Age. So that's from Yuval Gadot. Furthermore, the changed settlement pattern was not only accompanied by a demographic rise of settled people, but also included technological and architectural changes. While all this points toward a radical change, things are not straightforward. There was continuity, change, and regional diversity. The northern cluster of new settlements evinces much more continuity within the city culture than the cluster of new farmsteads. Yes, Vish is back. Hooray. Hi there.
Yeah, my internet just completely died.
Damn it. Well, we're very happy you're back. We're learning about continuity and discontinuity within city-state culture.
Very cool.
So the northern cluster of new settlements evinces much more continuity with the city culture than the cluster of new farmsteads in the Sumerian hill country, which were almost entirely new. The Iron Age one was a transitional period between the urban cultures in the Late Bronze Age and those in the Iron Age 2. The process was often conceptualized as a sequence of clear-cut phases of decline and emergence. However, recent data have convincingly shown that the phases overlap somewhat. The Late Bronze Age city-states continued for a while during the process of decline and coexisted with the developing new settlement patterns. Or, to phase it the other way around, the new settlement process had already begun in the 12th century BCE when the city-state culture started to decline. When the peak of settlement waves was reached in the 11th century, the decline still continued and the waves of settlement extended into the 10th century BCE. Despite the changed settlement pattern, the early Iron Age village culture cannot be described in complete discontinuity with the Late Bronze Age urban culture. It is true that luxury goods such as ivory, jewelry, and valuable ceramics, as well as the Late Bronze Age cylinder seals, were no longer produced. However, No complete break connected to the newly developed village culture can be interpreted ethnically in the sense of an opposition between Canaan and Israel. There was no change of language or dialect, at least as far as discernible. Utilitarian pottery and architecture were subject to functional changes, but were still in continuity with the late Bronze Age. Funeral rites hardly changed. The religion of the early Israelites was not fundamentally different from Canaanite religion. However, its systems of symbols was far more oriented toward the immediate needs of the farmers of the hill country. The transition between late Bronze Age urban society and early Iron Age village society was economically, culturally, and socially much more fluid than often assumed. This also brings the biblical portrayal of a clear contrast between the late Bronze Age Canaan and the early Iron Age Israel into question. While the late Bronze Age urban culture was characterized by a division of labor and achieving economic growth, trade and crafts, village culture functioned as a subsistence economy, characterized by the bartering of natural products. This was due to the relatively low level of social stratification in village culture. That is, there were only minor differences in status and hardly any elite or economically distinct classes within society. Scholarship, therefore, often refers to the early Iron Age social structure as an egalitarian tribal society. It should not be overlooked, however, that the craftsmen were also needed in the early Iron Age, and perhaps apart from the long-distance trade was also conducted. Land ownership of the early Iron Age to the tribal society was also dependent on social networks, usually reflecting kinship, which cultivated the idea of a common heritage. This goes on. Let's see how far. Actually, I will finish the paragraph here. The undoubted changes in social structure, economy, political organization, demographics, and way of life were probably due far more to the upheaval of the Canaanite city-state society than to an Israel that contrasted with Canaan. Looking at all the available information, not just cherry picking here, looking at all the available information, one cannot help feeling that the contrast between late Bronze Age and the Iron Age has been strongly overemphasized in research to preserve Israel's distinct otherness. However, this corresponds far more to the traditional models of the allogeneic origin of Israel than to the current more plausible models of indigenous origin. De facto, the transitions were far more fluid. That was a lot. I will just summarize this by pointing out, I hope everybody picked that up. All of that was to say that there was a societal shift that can be detected within the archaeology. There is the emergence of this new hill country culture, these new hill country settlements. But what's happening is there a gradual, protracted decline of Canaanite urban culture that lasts for over 200 years. However, very importantly, these are things that are occurring side by side. This isn't the Israel's coming in and wiping out the Canaanites. This is Canaanites changing the way that they live and taking their goddamn time doing it. Do you have anything on this?
Mostly just to co-sign. Like, I appreciate the author just coming right out and saying that many different peoples are indigenous to the land, because that is true.
This is an extremely important point, right? And one that's I've got some other stuff that we're going to read here shortly, but one that's emphasized quite a bit by very prominent archaeologist Israel Finkelstein likes to point out that everybody wants to talk about the emergence of the Israelites. Nobody talks about the emergence of the Moabites and the Edomites and the Ammonites and the Aramites. And it's all happening at the same time. All of it. This is what's happening. This is what the Bronze Age collapse is. It's this cultural shift. It's not the obliteration of a people group by another people group. It's a collective of more disconnected people groups starting to organize themselves and to collectivize into these nation states, which is something that takes place over a much longer period of time. The thing that we do here, everyone, on this channel, a lot of what we do here is nuance. These are complicated questions and subjects that are not easy to distill into a single slide that has a sentence fragment on it, as Michael wants to do. He's doing a disservice to his audience by not bringing them a fuller, more comprehensive, more realistic, more nuanced perspective of what scholarship is actually doing when it comes to this stuff.
Deep Flower nails it. Evangelicals want simple answers.
Yes, they do.
Any historian will tell you that history is not simple. It is very complex with lots of variables. So, I mean, it sucks that we can't just have a soundbite answer, but humans aren't like that.
Yeah.
We're complex beings with complex societies, and our history is just as complex. It doesn't fit neat little soundbite categories. Sorry.
It's a fucking mess. It really is. Sorry. No, I was interrupting you. Do we want to hit a couple of these super chats that came in before we continued?
Sure. Okay. I
think Lieutenant Matt the Navigator.
Okay. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 5 says, BRB, I'm going to go write a primary source about the Spanish Armada.
That's what we're talking about, right?
3 clam tad for 2. Here I go again on my own. Kev Davis problem.
Yes. Did we get Matt's earlier one? The text more than half a millennium. Did we read that one already?
Oh, just in case. What does a text written more than half a millennium later say about the history? Who's a fuck?
Who gives a fuck, right? Yes. The appropriate response. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So, thank you, everyone.
But now that I have, I think everything reloaded.
Thank you for hanging in there, Vish.
My camera started spinning, and then chat crashed, then Discord crashed, and then I looked down at the little monitor that tells you where your internet connection's going, and it was just like completely busted. So
damn
I don't know what happened. So all right.
And Hazor. Now, what about these cities? Were they burned? Well, for the longest time, we've heard there's no evidence of Jericho. I have some good news, though.
We talked about this last
The latest reports on Jericho from the leading archaeologist there, Lorenzo Nagro, has published a little bit of research within the past few years. First in 2020 and then in 2023. And I assure you, you're going to want to see what the latest reports on Jericho have to say. They are very...
Is there indisputable evidence that the walls were pushed in by angels supernaturally?
No.
Is that what they say? Is there evidence that people circled around 7 times and then blew a bunch of horns and then the walls collapsed?
That's not there. Not at all. Actually, sorry. Before we continue, I just want to I want to bring this up because I did mention it, and I got a bunch of things that I'm probably not going to get to at all, but I did want to point this one out. This is from Israel Finkelstein. Here he says, archaeology has revealed an unprecedented wave of settlements in the highlands of Canaan that commenced about the same time. This is at the time of the first mention in the historical record of an entity known as Israel from 1207 BCE in the Merneptah stele. In the course of in the course of the Iron Age 1, the 12th to 10th centuries BCE, about 250 settlements were established in an area between Beersheba and Jezreel valleys. Since most of these sites continued to be settled uninterrupted into the Iron II Age, when they formed the heartland of the state of Israel and Judah, their inhabitants can safely be referred to as Israelites or Proto-Israelites. This is the material background for the rise of early Israel. Importantly, though, two main questions have dominated the study of the emergence of early Israel. First, what was the origin of the Iron One villagers of the highlands, the Proto-Israelites? Since a similar process took place at that time in the highlands of Transjordan, one should ask the same question about the Proto-Ammonites, Proto-Moabites, and Proto-Edomites. Second, what were the forces that stimulated the foundation of hundreds of small, isolated Iron One communities in the highlands? Earlier scholars could not reach a consensus about the answers to these questions, and theories shifted between a complete reliance on the biblical text and a total denial of its value as an historical record. But in recent years, the spectrum of views has narrowed quite dramatically. First and foremost, most of us agree today on what we do not accept, and that in itself is a remarkable achievement in historical research. Surprisingly, sorry, my phone's trying to hang up. Stop it.
You all right there? While you're fixing
Damn
that,
it. Why won't you hang up?
I did see a comment
I don't want to talk
from
to
Dan.
this person and this. There we go. Okay. Where was I? In recent years,
this comment, but it's fine.
The spectrum of views, yeah, we'll talk about Nigro in a minute. The spectrum of views has narrowed quite dramatically. Yes, it's a remarkable achievement in historical research that has happened. Surprisingly, most scholars today will find it easy to unite behind the rejection of all three theories proposed by scholars that dominated the study of the early rise of Israel until about 20 years ago. And those were the conquest theory is one of those. The other one is the peasant revolt theory, and the third one is the shoot, I can't remember the third one. But in any event, currently scholars are generally more agreed that it's this multifaceted, much more complicated presentation of things that are happening within the Levant. Okay, I just wanted to get that in there. We can continue with the video here, and then we'll talk about what Lorenzo Nigro says. So here
nice.
he's going to
I'm going to get to
start talking about the walls of Jericho. He's coming up here.
Okay.
You will see some of the latest research on Jericho today. You guys ready? All right. But first, I was going to give you the backstory of Jericho. So the first person to excavate Jericho was John Garstang. He went there and he said there was a destruction of Jericho around 1400. Though he didn't really do much. And then Kathleen Kenyon came. She said, well, there was a destruction, but it was actually around 1550. All right. So no evidence of a conquest during the time of Joshua that we've established. Now, here's the issue, though. When she went there, she discovered a Cyclopean wall right there. Now, what is that? This is the wall that was destroyed in 1550. Now, a Cyclopean wall is what you would expect. It's just a single wall. I
think it's Cyclopean, but Also, this image reminds me of the ancient aliens people who are always like, look at these walls, those stones fit together so tightly you couldn't even put
How could they?
a
Who
piece of
could do
paper through
that?
them. Nobody could do this without like help from advanced technology.
That's right. It's those white aliens.
Now that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because doesn't it say something interesting in the book of Joshua? It says Rahab lived in the wall.
You've talked about
Nobody
this.
could live in a cyclopean wall because it's just a single.
True.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
In a second, let him finish this about the cyclopean wall, and before he goes on, I think we need to return to the text, because it is important.
What we need to look for with Jericho would be a casemate wall.
Yes,
because a casemate wall, like here's your inner city from a bird's eye view. You can build rooms because it's two walls with enough space for rooms in between them. You can see here's a picture of what we can see in terms of casemate walls from the ancient world. You can see there was room to sort of get inside those places. Casemate walls. That's what should have been at Jericho when Joshua came through.
Mm-hmm.
Also, an important thing about it as well is that 1550 destruction, the one that Kathleen Kenyon found, the one that early daters of the Exodus are desperate to try to turn into Joshua's destruction, doesn't work. Because whoever destroyed that wall used ramparts. They used battering rams. Did Joshua use battering rams? No, he did not. The walls came tough.
No, he didn't. He used horns and angels.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly what happens in the text.
Mm-hmm. Depending on which text, account you read, the walls either got pushed straight down by angels or they fell inwards by the power of sonic blasts. Or
they kind of, right? And they kind of sound like they just crumble in, like, almost. It says that they fall on in place, essentially, right? Just let it go to stop it at 30 minutes. So
okay,
tumbling down.
If we get,
they didn't have to use any batter ramps,
or before 30 minutes. Yeah.
Back to the timeline. So even if this destruction could be redated, it's not Joshua's destruction. It can't be, because again, it's the wrong wall.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's the wrong destruction.
That's right.
Cannot be Joshua's destruction.
Totally.
But was there another destruction? Maybe. Well, Garstang actually thought there was two destructions when he went and looked there. People don't realize this. He said, though in general the remains of this building and even its destruction layers were well preserved, it was found, unfortunately, to have been disturbed in places by the foundation of a stout building of a still later date. It now made clear that the pottery proper of this middle building belonged to a second phase of the late Bronze Age. So when he went there, he found that early destruction, but he said there's even evidence of another destruction that happened later. There were two destructions. So someone destroyed it early, they rebuilt the city, and then someone came back and destroyed it again. So two destructions there. Now what happened again? After the 1550 destruction, the Cyclopean Wall, the one that was destroyed with battering rams, the people there, they rebuilt on top of it. They refurbished with a mud brick wall. So they built a new mud brick wall on top of the surviving crest of.
Very important. A couple very important things to point out here. Michael said so himself. The problem with the 1550 destruction of Jericho is that it's a Cyclopean wall, not a casemate wall, because of how the text describes the city of Jericho, right? And I think we should look at this. So I'm gonna pull this up now. This is Thomas Dozeman's Anchor Bible commentary on the book of Joshua. He's got a paragraph here about the findings, the archaeological findings of Jericho that Michael just kind of went over here, right? Well, then he's got this important stuff here. I think important stuff with regards to the text and its relationship to the archaeology. The literary use of Jericho in the Hebrew Bible is concentrated in the story of its destruction by Yahweh in the book of Joshua, which contains half of the references to the city, 26 occurrences. In Joshua, the city of Jericho symbolizes urban life, royal city-states with strong walls and monarchs in the promised land, and requires extermination and is cursed for all time in Joshua 6. Outside of the book, Jericho is a minor city that functions as a spa or a health center. David sends men to Jericho to recover from the shame of having their beards cut off in 2 Samuel 10:5. And the Israelites also send Judean captives there for recovery in 2 Chronicles 28, verse 15. Jericho is identified in the post-exilic period as a city where the returnees from exile take up residency, Nehemiah 7:36 and Ezra 2:34. It may also acquire eschatological significance in the story of Elijah and Elisha as the place where Elijah ascended to heaven and Elisha sweetened water, 2 Kings chapter 2. The inclusion of Jericho in Joshua 2:1 raises questions about its role in the story of Rachav. The emphasis in the Masoretic text, namely that the city of Jericho was the object of spying rather than the land, fits uneasily into the larger story. Note, for example, that upon the return to Joshua, the spies report on the land, not the city, in verse 24. This tension, along with problems in chronology in Joshua 1-3, led Knopf to conclude that Joshua 2 is a late addition to the book. D.J. McCarthy interpreted the references to the city as an addition to a story of spying the land. Bowling and Wright wrote, quote, the 3 references to Jericho in quick succession here, verses 1-3, but not again in the chapter, serve to tie the story of reconnoitering the land together with the story of the fall of Jericho in chapter 6. The story of Rachav may originate from an independent legend, but there is little doubt that the setting of Jericho is essential to the story and to the book of Joshua as a whole. The destruction of Jericho in Joshua 6 is central to the procession of the ark to the mountains of Ebal and Gerizim, since its extermination under the ban provides the paradigm for what Joshua and the Israelites must do to all the cities in the promised land. So Jericho is functioning literarily like an emblem, like a signpost, like the prototypical Canaanite city with great big strong walls and you know, this impenetrable city that would require a miracle from Yahweh for its destruction. That's something that people often forget. I've made this point in other streams before on this idea, or in other videos before on this topic. At the heart of it, Vish, you mentioned it, the story of the destruction of Jericho is a miracle story. It's about God's power to destroy this impregnable city. That's the point. Okay, let's talk about this wall for a second. Just moving on here. Here's what he's talking about. In the text of Joshua chapter 2, it talks about Rahab living literally in a wall on the wall, is how it describes it. Here's what he has to say about it, and this is basically universal among scholars with respect to what it's talking about here. In a room of the wall, the Hebrew bakir hachoma is difficult, since both words mean wall. The phrase is lacking in the Septuagint, which is also interesting. Hess notes 2 types of walls that would allow for the statement that Rachav lived in the wall. First, a casemate wall that functions as 2 parallel walls, and second, a small circle of mud brick houses that form a continuous wall around the center. He prefers the latter, which then allows for an historical reading of the text and would also account for the absence of archaeological evidence. The absence of archaeological evidence for the existence of a casemate wall. That's what he's talking about. The gates, chapter 2:5, the role of the king, chapter 2:3, and the miraculous destruction of the walls of Jericho in 621 all suggest that the author has in mind a casemate wall. Vanderloo concludes that such a casemate wall was no longer understood by Hellenistic Jews and thus was omitted by the translator. Yeah. And importantly, I believe I might be wrong about this, but I believe that the casemate wall is also an archaeological feature of the Levant that you can't really situate or date prior to the 8th or the 9th century until you go back far enough. So there's some dating issues with casemate walls in general. But here's the important point. This is a casemate wall according to the author of the text. That's how he understands it. Michael himself seems to think that this is the case, that we should be looking for a casemate wall. Remember, he said the 1550 destruction of Jericho can't be Joshua's destruction. His reason, because it's a cyclopean wall and not a casemate wall. That's what he's talking about. All right. We can continue with the video now, I think.
Okay.
The cyclopean wall. So they build a wall, destroyed, build a new wall on top of it. And you can see that in the data here. So here's the cyclopean wall, fell out. And then you can see this other wall they started building on top of it. So 2 walls. Now, what does Lorenzo Negro say? So he says late bronze layers were heavily cut by leveling operations carried out in the Iron Age. Now, what does that mean? So what it means is Solomon, when he built up Jericho, he started digging in to Jericho, disturbing the layers there, cutting in and changing stuff, removing evidence of anything that happened. So it's not that when we look there, we find evidence of a destruction. It's not that when we look there, we find no evidence of a destruction. It's when we look, the layers that would tell us about a destruction are missing because they were disturbed by later builders, which is unfortunate to say the least.
Pause in there.
But it's not that we haven't.
Can you see, Vish? It's small, but can you see there the page references for Nigro's?
202 to 204.
That looks small, eh? For that doesn't look like enough text to fill out like 3 pages. He's got this little quote here.
So he's
seems a bit light. Those ellipses.
Ellipses doing there.
Yeah, what are those doing there? I don't have my text up here. So now oh shit. Just a sec here. Let me pull this up. I think we have a couple of super chats while I'm pulling this up if we want to get to those.
Yeah. I will do that.
I hope everyone's having fun.
Dave for 5 beaver bucks. Breaking news. Dave. Scientists discover Jericobtanium. New space walls expected before 2030.
It's good to see you.
Olivia Williams for $6.99 beaver bucks. Cyclopean walls. That makes me think of Lovecraft. That's the kind of description he used, and I usually interpreted it as huge.
That's pretty cool.
Lieutenant Matt the Navigator, did Paul Bunyan use a chainsaw? I would also like to know. Maybe he had the help of an advanced, lost, high-tech civilization.
Don't we all?
And Teddy the Wonder Lizard for 10. Thanks for the work you are doing. I still can't believe that people like Michael Jones actually believe what they are saying. It's mind-boggling. The human mind. Chrissy for 2. Mike Jones has written no books. Same as Kip.
Thanks, Chrissy. Good to see you.
Just,
all right.
Oh, yeah. About it. Dan was saying, Tiger explicitly says the archaeological data don't support a conquest.
Yes, he does. Yep.
Bring up that Trojan source.
Shall we bring up the Trojan source here? Page 202 of Nigro's article. And see, this is why I prefer. I mean, I've done this before. I've set quoted material. I've set them on into my own slides before, but listen, this is how I prefer to do it because I want you guys to see that I'm not lying to you. This is the actual article that that Nigro has written, and I want this to be clear that that we're going to the source here and we're reading what the scholars are actually saying. It's very important. Okay, the city of Jericho was still occupied in the late Bronze Age, although in a reduced scale. The burnt and collapsed mud brick Middle Bronze 3 defense system was refurbished by adding a mud brick wall on top of the surviving crest of the Cyclopean wall, as in figure 25. This is the picture that Michael showed here, with the arrow pointing to the mud brick wall on top of the Cyclopean wall. Everyone can see that. Okay. The palace was scaled to a residency called the Middle Building, while there is no evidence concerning the temple. The most notable finds of this period are 2 royal signet rings bearing the insignia of Amenhotep III, which is kind of interesting, and the ceramic assemblages from Tomb 5 excavated by Garstang. The almost complete absence of any reference to Jericho in the Amarna letters contrasts with the discovery by Garstang of an administrative tablet dating from the same period, which is a substantial piece of evidence in favor of the existence of a palace and a city during the 14th century BCE. In the following stages of Late Bronze 2B, the site was still occupied in spite of the claimed lack of Mycenaean pottery, which led Garstang to conclude that the city had been abandoned. The absence of Mycenaean pottery in an inland center may not be chronologically meaningful. Moreover, as on the eastern flank of the Spring Hill, Kenyon uncovered dwellings dating to this period. And it seems clear that the middle building was still in use. Late Bronze 2B layers were heavily cut by leveling operations carried out. Unfortunately, the reliability of the royal name. Whoops. I just went back to the same page. Sorry. Here we go. So this explains that it's the site leveling explains the scarcity of 13th century materials, not the complete absence, by the way, just the scarcity of 13th century materials. Late Bronze 2 layers were also detected in the southern and eastern flank of the Tell by the Italian-Palestinian expedition in areas A, E, and T, as well as to the northwest in Austro-German trenches. The overall stratigraphy of Tel El Satan through time may explain why late Bronze Age layers were mostly preserved all around the Tell on its flanks, but were almost completely cut away from its top by Iron Age Roman, Hellenistic, and Byzantine building activities. He's got an important note here about the biblical account of Joshua and archaeology at Tel Es Sultan. This page 204. This was included in Michael's slide, but I feel like he's missed some of this. Tel Es Sultan is the protagonist in one of the most famous accounts of Old Testament. The first major episode of the narrative, the conquest of Canaan by the Israelite tribes under the guidance of the chieftain Joshua, Joshua 2:6. As with any literary narrative, the biblical text has its internal chronology, which fixes Joshua around 1480 BCE, i.e., 480 years before David. This, of course, is an exegetic issue and not an archaeological or an historical one. W.F. Albright, who wanted to let biblical stories play on a real historical stage, thought that Joshua's account might better fit the scenario of the 13th to the 12th centuries BC Palestine, exactly corresponding to a major occupational gap at the site. This was seen as a problem, excuse me, by those thinking that the biblical account should have had a literal archaeological correspondence, influencing in turn several scholarly and popular discussions. As excavations started at Tel Es Sultan, this became a tantalizing question. debated both in archaeology and biblical studies. Although it is now accepted that this perspective is methodologically erroneous, it nevertheless deserves some comment. As a basic premise, one should remember that archaeology rarely succeeds in matching written sources and excavated evidence. Only the retrieval of extraordinarily well stratified inscribed items may allow such a positive correlation, and there are many cases where this has not been enough to achieve a reliable historical reconstruction. In any case, the ruins of Tel Es Sultan include massive, collapsed and burnt mud brick structures. One may imagine that the terrible destructions suffered by the Canaanite city both in the 3rd and 2nd millennium BC had surely become part of the local shared memory and possibly were narrated, as the Jerokians had been able to overcome them almost every time. There is no way, however, to link them directly to the Bible, except for the fact that the biblical author may have reused one of these stories to validate the historicity of his narration. The ruins at Tel Es Sultan are far older than the alleged date of Joshua's conquest. Moreover, if we consider the time when the biblical text was written, the 6th century BC, or that when it was orally translated somewhere between the 12th to the 7th centuries BC, as well as the long story of its written transposition, it is clear how hazardous is any attempt to seriously identify something on the ground with biblical personages and their acts. Nonetheless, the already famous ruins of Jericho were exploited by the biblical author, giving them an everlasting fame. So,
I'm
sure.
still stuck on that sentence. There is no way, however, to link them directly to the Bible, except for the fact that the biblical author may have reused one of these stories to validate the historicity of his narration. And who's this author, by the way, like that you're reading from?
Lorenzo Nigro, the archaeologist and the leader of the Italian-Palestinian excavation, who Michael has just cited.
Who Mike has on the slide here.
That's who he has on the slide here.
Well,
Michael is very, very happy about these a couple of articles that Nigro has, and I just don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why, but it's not. I mean, it's absolutely not the flex he thinks it is.
I understand it. Yeah, I don't see any evidence to the contrary, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Very true. Very true. So, Lorenzo Nigro, again, I will repeat this again. We saw this with Scott Nagel, who Michael cited, who does not agree with Michael. We see this with Nigro, whom Michael has cited, who does not agree with Michael. Why don't these guys agree with Michael? This is a question he's not asking. Clearly, it's an important one. It's really fucking important. If you're going to cite these people, make sure you understand exactly what they're saying. Because half the time, I'm convinced he doesn't. Yeah. All right. He's going to say a little bit more. Now, remember, once again, I'm going to remind everyone, Michael has said that there's no casemate wall in the 1550 destruction of Jericho, therefore can't be Joshua's conquest. And now he's talking about the late bronze 2B layers, which were heavily cut. So, there's a lot of stuff that's missing. And he's also mentioned that there was a mud brick wall built on top of the Cyclopean wall. Fortifications that can be dated to the 13th century Jericho, which is where he wants to find Joshua and the Israelites. All right, let's continue.
Man's working his hands to the bone in the quote mines.
God, is he ever?
Found anything there. It's that Solomon, the Byzantines, the Romans kept building on top of Jericho, kept building, and they kept digging and digging down into the late bronze layers, removing any evidence of what happened there.
Wait,
so we just don't know what happened to this walled city.
He said removing any evidence of what's happening there? Is that what Nagro said? No. He said there is a scarcity of evidence. A scarcity of evidence from the 13th century layers because of this activity. Very little does not mean it's not zero. It's not nothing. There's stuff there. There's shit there.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Just a second. I'm going to close this door. Press play.
Okay.
But Lorenzo Nagro also notes something interesting. He says after the late bronze city was there, it disappeared, and it was replaced by a small rural village. So Iron Age 1 was detected in a few places on Spring Hill. Ceramic material was dated to the 11th century and may be related to the rural village that rose out of the ruins of the late bronze city. So let me explain what this means in terms of a timeline. So let's go through this. So 1550, the first destruction, the Cyclopean wall comes down. Okay. They rebuild it with a new mud brick wall. Okay. Exodus comes in around 1265. 1225 is a conquest. This mud brick walled structure disappears. We don't know what happened to it. Okay. And what happens after this period, there's just a small village there. So the walled city is gone. And all that's there is a small village. That's basically the new story of Jericho. Hopefully, if they keep studying it, they'll find evidence of a destruction.
That's just wishful thinking, man. They're going to find the Ark one day, y'all. You just wait. You just wait. They'll show you.
Hold on, guys. It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. Also, yeah, it's mud brick. Rain happens.
But thank you for bringing this up because he keeps saying it, right? It's a mud brick wall on top of the Cyclopean wall. What kind of a wall is Michael actually looking for? He's looking for a casemate wall. He said it. The 1550 destruction can't be the destruction of Joshua because there's no casemate wall there. There's no fucking casemate wall there. Anywhere. It's not there. It's a mud brick wall. It's like 2 meters wide. It's not a casemate wall, which is what is described in the book of Joshua. It's the evidence that Michael uses explicitly in this presentation to reject the 1550 destruction as Joshua's. Why aren't you doing the same thing with the mud brick wall? It's not a casemate wall. Okay, press play. Yes.
But again, this does at least fit with the biblical timeline, does it not? Fits very well with it. You have an Exodus, a conquest, you have a walled city, and that's gone. It's no longer there in the 1100s and the 1000s. So something happened to that walled city. Unfortunately, again, because Solomon, Hellenistic, and Byzantine rulers kept digging in that area, they removed evidence of those late bronze layers.
How is he going to pin this on Solomon? What is happening?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can, I mean, it doesn't, so, but yes, it doesn't fit it again, right? It absolutely does not fit with the biblical timeline because the biblical timeline has the destruction of Jericho taking place in the 16th century, which is not what Michael's talking about. Is his audience just not paying attention?
all they're hearing is a bunch of words, and their brain is going, "Yep, that proves the Bible. Yep, that proves it."
Proves it.
So
Proves it all. Okay.
But that doesn't mean it contradicts. In fact, this is very consistent with the biblical timeline now.
Very good.
So,
wrong.
according to the latest reports, Jericho can now fit with the biblical account.
No,
Finally.
No.
Let's talk about I. The
Okay.
site that
Pause it.
scholars generally
okay.
say.
Let's see. Do I actually? I'm not going to bother with it. There is a. When was this video posted? I responded to this all this years before. I blocked. Yes. So this was just a few weeks ago. Dan, he gave this presentation. As I mentioned, you might have missed it at the beginning, but I think this is a presentation he gave at a church in Boston while he was there for ETS in November. But this is, and yeah, it's basically just his Exodus Rediscovered series that he did with Falk a few years ago. So it's yeah, but he doesn't listen. He's not going to listen to me. He doesn't listen to you. He's not going to listen to the scholars that I'm reading who are clearly, telling him, my guy, it's not that simple. And you actually have to look at a wide range of data points in order to arrive at a perspective of what the fuck happened at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. So, all that is, yes. Joshua Geese for $5. Thank you.
Solomon destroyed biblical evidence. Doesn't sound too wise to me.
Excellent. All right. So I had another thing from Niagara's written another article. I'm not gonna. We won't bother with that. It's just as unimpressive to Michael's or to David Falk's case for the Conquest and Jericho. So we're just gonna plow on here and talk about I, which is fun. Jones is so stubborn that he won't, and fair, yes, he won't even listen to Joel, Joel, who's nice to Michael, who will actually go on his show and try to help him, and he's not going to listen to Joel.
Yeah, Dan's right. The IP's been informed about the problems with these claims. He's literally arguing that there's no evidence that precludes the event. Therefore, we can assume the event is likely.
No, dude, you're not reading. Please read. You're not reading.
Read to the end of
annoying.
the section, Mike. That would probably help you a lot. Like, don't just go, Control F for phrases that you think might back you up, and don't just read sentences that are quoted out of context. Just read the whole section. That's usually a good idea.
It's a very good idea.
Or do you have another source?
No, let's start talking. Let's get into I here.
Okay.
That I was is et tel. Now, they'll say things like, well, we have no evidence of any destruction there during the time of Joshua. But the problem is that the Bible doesn't describe Ai as a giant city like Gibeon or a giant fortress like Jericho. Okay? It describes it rather small. Joshua only took a small number of men to ambush it at first. And then it says when the men of Ai chased them, there was not a man left in Ai or Bethel that did not go after Israel. So it kind of treats Ai like a small outpost for Bethel, which was the real city.
What the hell is he talking about?
So, I
Et tel Brute. Sorry, I need to laugh. I'm very irritable. Real quick, Lieutenant Matt, the Navigator replied, "This man is in severe need of treatment for quote long." That's what you get when you work too long in the quote mines.
Oh,
treated for
that's good. I like that. So, I want you to look at what he's got on the screen here, where he says, like, this is pretty important, right? And we've talked a little bit about this before. In fact, maybe do I have that handy here? No, but that's okay. We've talked a little bit about this in the past before, but look at it says here, like Michael's making the point here that Ai is small. It's a small city. It's a small outpost, and this is based on both the archaeological record. But then he says, like the Bible sort of describes Ai that way. And here he's got these texts here. I think these are wrong. Where he has it as Judges 8 verse 12 and 8 verse 17. These are supposed to be Joshua. This is just sloppy. Michael, I understand that mistakes happen, but for real, like fix your shit. Otherwise, it looks like you're just sloppy and you're not paying attention to the important things when you make little mistakes like this, right? So, it says here he took about, this is Joshua, took about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai. And then it says that not a man was left in Ai or Bethel who did not go out after Israel. They left the city open and pursued Israel. Now, what's important is that, let me pull my notes up here. I think, did I write down the text? Yeah, Joshua 8. If you have Safaria open, Vish, can you pull up Joshua 8? And let's look at that.
Which verse?
Start verse 3 is where I think start in verse 3. And we'll read it pretty quick here, I think.
Okay.
So Joshua and all the combat troops prepared for the march on Ai. Joshua chose 30,000 men, valiant warriors, and sent them ahead by night. He instructed them as follows: mind, you are to lie in ambush behind the city. Don't stay too far from the city, and all of you be on the alert. I and the troops with me will approach the city, and when they come out against us, as they did the first time, this is the second attack on Ai, we will flee from them. They will come rushing after us until we have drawn them away from the city. They will think they are fleeing from us, the same as last time. But while we are fleeing before them, you will dash out from your ambush and seize the city, and Yahweh your God will deliver it into your hands. And when you take the city, set it on fire. Do as Yahweh has commanded. Mind, I have given you your orders. So Joshua sent them off, and they proceeded to the ambush. They took up a position between Ai and Bethel, west of Ai, while Joshua spent the night with the rest of the troops. Early in the morning, Joshua mustered the troops. Then he and the elders of Israel marched on Ai at the head of the troops. All the combat troops that were with him advanced near the city and encamped to the north of Ai, with a hollow between them and Ai. He selected about 5,000 men. Remember the ambush force? How big that was? How big was it, Vish? Do you remember how big that was?
30,000.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
He's saying this, which is later on. He's like, oh, it's not a lot of people. That's 5 out of 30,000. Yeah.
But this, even if it was just that, 5,000 is a lot.
That's a lot of people.
And we'll talk about this in a minute. Thus, the main body of the army was disposed on the north of the city, but the far end of it was to the west. Thus, this was after Joshua had spent the night in the valley. When the king of Ai saw them, he and all his troops, the townsmen, rushed out in the early morning to the meeting place, facing the Arabah to engage the Israelites in battle. For he was unaware that a force was lying in ambush behind the city. Joshua and all Israel fled in the direction of the wilderness as though routed by them. All the troops of the city gathered to pursue them. Pursuing Joshua, they were drawn out of the city. Not a man was left in Ai or Bethel who did not go out after Israel. They left the city open while they pursued Israel. God then said to Joshua, hold out the javelin in your hand toward Ai, for I will deliver it into your hands. So Joshua held out the javelin in his hand toward the city. As soon as he held out his hand, the ambush came rushing out of their station, the 5,000 men. They entered the city and they captured it, and they swiftly set fire to the city. The men of Ai looked back and saw the smoke of the city rising to the sky. They had no room for flight in any direction. The people who had been fleeing to the wilderness now became the pursuers. For when Joshua and all the Israel saw that the ambush had captured the city, sorry, that was the 30,000, not the 5,000 that entered the city and burned it. They turned around and attacked the men of Ai. Now the others were coming out of the city against them, so they were between two bodies of Israelites, one on each side of them. They were slaughtered so that no one escaped or got away. The king of Ai was taken alive and brought to Joshua. When Israel had killed all the inhabitants of Ai who had pursued them into the wilderness, and all of them to the last man had fallen by the sword, all the Israelites turned back to Ai and put it to the sword. Those who fell that day, men and women, the entire population of Ai came to 12,000. 12,000 people is the size of Ai, according to the biblical text. Michael says this is a small city.
12,000 people is a lot. In that time period, that's a lot.
we have talked about this before in presentations of the Conquest. So the largest city in Canaan at the time of the 12th century BCE, 13th century BCE, was Chatzor. Estimates for the population of Chatzor at this time are around 12 to maybe 15 or 18,000 people. The largest city in all of Canaan. 12 to 15, maybe 18,000 people. And I'm saying this by like a fucking country mile. Like, it is a massive city compared to everything else in the area. Everything's quite small compared to Chatzor. 12 to 15 or possibly 18,000 people. And Michael wants us to think that the 12,000 resident city of Ai was a small city at the time of Joshua. No, my guy, it just is not. Is this considered a harem offering? I believe that I only use the term with respect to those places where it's deployed. I believe so. I believe later on in the text it does say that this was a harem offering to Yahweh. And this is also, if you think about it logically, in response, the response by Yahweh, if the largest city is 12 to 15,000 people, how is Joshua running around with 30,000 folks and not just wiping everyone out with no issues? Exactly. These are some of the attendant problems of aligning the biblical text to the archaeology of the period. Not the only problems. These are some of them. Right? There's a whole bunch. We've already talked about a few of them. One of them being the really big one being the continuity on display between the Canaanite city-states and the emerging highland population over a period of over 200 years is a major problem for the biblical narrative. You had something else there.
Simone was just saying, isn't this where the guy took gold and stuff?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for getting me back on track, Simone and Vish. Yes. Joshua is sent to destroy the city of Ai, and they fail because Achan has violated the cherem of Jericho. So what happens is Achan and his entire family then are cheremed. They're made as a cherem offering in satisfaction because Yahweh needs his harem. He needs it. And then what follows after that is Yahweh is satisfied. Now they can go and destroy Ai, and it says that that they killed everyone. And I believe it also does say within the text that it is a Hanam offering to Yahweh. I'm not entirely clear, but I believe that's the case. So importantly, Ai's, according to the biblical text, Ai is like it's not, and that's the thing too. Ai's still big, but it's not as big as Jericho, according to the text. And that's part of this, right? Like the writer of this story in Joshua wants you to think that Jericho is fucking enormous. And then Ai is smaller, but it's still big. 12,000 people. They understood at the time when here I've got something so at the 8th century in the 8th century, when some of these stories, maybe these, I don't think necessarily, but it's possible that stories from the book of Joshua were written as early as the 8th century BCE. I don't think that's the case, but it's possible. But let's allow it. Let's say that the stories in the book of Joshua were written as early as the 8th century BCE. At the time of the 8th century, at the time when the city of Samaria was destroyed by the Assyrians, it was far and away the largest city in the entire region, the city of Samaria. At the time of its destruction, there were at least 27,000 people in the city of Samaria. So in the imagination of the writer, you know, maybe the city of Samaria is comparable to that's kind of what they have in mind when they're writing about the destruction of the city of Jericho. Jericho is like their analog for Samaria, this city of almost 30,000 people. And from that perspective, then maybe maybe it does look quite a bit smaller with only 12,000 people. But they still understood that this was a big city. It's not Samaria, it's not Jericho, but it's still pretty fucking big. I think that's kind of the point here. Let's let this play out because he's got some strange things to say about Ai relative to
Mike,
Bethel.
it's really hard to read the text when you've faded it out to try to get your super cool burning land background in there. So just a pro design tip there.
Yeah.
But I had to be taken first. Now, what's interesting, though, is Israel Finkelstein, for example, he actually says we do have evidence Bethel was destroyed at this time by invading Israelites. Again, Finkelstein does not believe in an exodus. But even he admits, Bethel seems to have been destroyed around this time. It appears to be by...
Okay, read it closely. The last late Bronze Age settlement was annihilated by a great conflagration, which left 1 to 1.5 meters thick debris. This destruction layer is described as one of the thickest ash levels yet reported in Palestine. It was dated to 1240 to 1235 BCE and attributed to the invading Israelites. Who attributed this? Is he saying that this is probably No, he's saying it was attributed. Now that's passive voice, but who did the attribution? Who did that, do you think? This is basic reading comprehension.
Guys, this is why Vish is the co-host on this show, because she will read things carefully and properly.
Just reading it.
Just read it. Just read it.
Tenemath the Navigator for 5. His graphic design talent is much more advanced than his capacity for historical analysis. Not by much.
That's fair. But fair. So
just covering
his ash. Very good.
good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
What would
guys.
be
You guys
called
are the
invading
best.
Israelites. And of course, we
Did
also
you
have
pull
to
this
note
paper,
something
Ellen?
about.
What's
Did you
that?
pull this paper?
I did not,
that's
sadly, but it's okay.
Okay.
I'm happy. I'm happy to concede this. I'm happy,
Okay.
and that's the thing here too, right? I am happy to concede in my model of the transition. I'm not going to call it a conquest because that's not what's happening. But in my model of the transition from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age in Palestine, I am happy to accept that there are properly sites that were destroyed by actual Israelites. I think Hatzor is the best candidate for that. When I'm talking about Israelites, though, it's not the same thing as what Michael's talking about when he's talking about Israelites. These are just the people who became, these groups that organize themselves into these kingdoms of Israel and Judah at a later period of time. They're the ones who probably have these traditions that they're bringing along with them from an earlier time. But importantly, they're not coming from outside of the land. They're already there, and they're just one small part of everything that's going on. They're not responsible for most of the destructions of the cities that are taking place at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. That's kind of the important point here.
Ugh. What's funny
What is okay, thanks. Dan's got it here. If you want to grab that, I can grab that.
The archaeology and history of Bethel. Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to pull this, but what's interesting is while I was scrolling through it's in German, by the way, a lot of this. Finkelstein and Yuval Gadot write a paper in this pig frequencies and Iron Age sites in the biblical pig taboo. Once again, I'm like, I was just talking to somebody about this. So, yeah, I'm gonna just
archaeology and history of Bethel according to Albright and Kelso. So,
okay.
he cites Kelso from 1968 as attributed it to the invading Israelites. So yeah, I guarantee you that, and we don't need to look at it, but thank you, Dan. Yeah, Finkelstein is not attributing any of this to invading Israelites. He's providing a history of scholarship. What happened?
I found it on JSTOR.
Okay.
So,
I have a bunch of stuff, so I think we'll just plow forward. It's there in the chat if people want to look at it. Rest assured that Michael is not properly representing the material here. Let's listen to what he has to say here. I want to try and finish the stuff that he has about I today before we have to shut it down. So let's.
What does I mean in Hebrew? It means ruin, heap of stones. It does not mean
in every. I'm just going to say it, and people can fact check me on this. I invite you to, but the meaning of I is this: it's ruin or heap of stones. In every single reference to I in Joshua chapter 7 and 8, really importantly, it doesn't appear like this. It appears ha-I. What's significant about that, Vish? Or are you listening to me?
I am. When you're saying it's ha-I or the I, it's the ruin. The
ruin, the heap of stones.
Not necessarily a proper noun.
Yeah, right.
Like a city.
Every single instance in the story of I in the book of Joshua calls it ha-I, the ruin, the heap of stones. It's honestly, it's like, it's just one of the things about reckoning the story with what's actually going on in the archaeological record. It's just so on the nose to me. It just is. It's like they're telling you what's happening. The writer is telling you there's this big heap of stones. You know, we all know it. There's this big ruin there. The ruin, you remember the ruin? Yeah, that was a big city once. And Joshua totally wrecked it. He did. A long time ago. That's when he did. That's when he was doing. All right. Press play.
I do want to say that skimming through this paper, the summary for one of these parts. You know what? F it.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Just a reevaluation of the archaeology of Bethel indicates that the site prospered in late Iron Age 1, Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2B, and the late Hellenistic period, that it was weakly settled in the late Iron Age 2A and Iron Age 2C, and that it was probably uninhabited or almost deserted in the Babylonian and Persian periods, possibly also in the early Iron Age 2A. Biblical references to Bethel should be read accordingly. The only possible period for the supposed strong scribal activity at Bethel is Iron Age 2B in the 8th century BCE, probably before the fall of the Northern Kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing even here about,
Jeez.
Okay. Walled city. It seems that it was a ruin that the Bethelites used as sort of like an outpost of their main city. This is just a smaller sort of outpost used for defense, warning, and so that is what I simply was. Kenneth Kitchen reminds us something about the biblical account. He says, it still needs to be remembered also that the entire area of Et-Tel has not been dug. Fully eroded parts, of course, can never tell us anything. The Hebrews may well have taken Bethel after Ai, but the narrative is focused on Ai. So again, the point of the narrative is just to focus on Ai, this smaller area. Now, you may still be upset, but let's talk about a couple other things. So first off,
why? Why are they? Why is the biblical narrative focused on Ai? Did you ask that question? Why not Bethel? Why not? Why Ai, not Bethel? I mean, I think that's significant. Okay, drop that. We're gonna have to. I think we're gonna finish with this stuff on Ai, and we're gonna have to come back to this next week. What was that from? I want to see that from Hayden. You pulled something up from Hayden, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hell yeah!
Oh hell yeah! Kenneth Kitchen time. God. and then Simone's.
Yeah. Did anybody just cringe or grimace? It's like,
yeah. It's at that point now, isn't it? So, okay. Let's talk about Ai. I need to pull up my notes here. I've got a few things.
Can I close Michael?
Yeah, you can close Michael. We're done with him today.
Yay.
So, the Ai is a serious problem for the 13th century conquest ideas. And I'm gonna bring up this is Amahai Mazar, great Israeli archaeologist. Josh and I had the distinct privilege of interviewing him and talking with him about Canaan at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. It was a delightful conversation. It's a video that you can find in my catalog. I encourage everybody to go watch that if you haven't. It was really great. But here's what he has to say here in an essay that he wrote in I think this is 2010 actually. So the conquest narrative in the book of Joshua and other conquest stories in the book of Numbers and Judges have long attracted archaeologists. Destroyed cities are something that archaeologists should be able to discover And if indeed Israel destroyed many Canaanite cities, as described in various conquest narratives, in particular, but not only in the book of Joshua, then archaeologists should be able to uncover those ruined cities. Stands to reason. In the early years of biblical archaeology, historians and archaeologists tended to accept the conquest narrative at face value. Archaeologists like John Garstang, William F. Albright, Yigal Yadin, and others presented the Israelite conquest of the country as a short-lived event that could be identified archaeologically. Yadin was perhaps the last to present Joshua as a real military hero who conquered city after city in Canaan in line with the biblical narrative. Yigal Yadin was excavating in the 1960s. It was a long time ago, and a whole lot has happened since then. Oh, look, he says, since the 1960s, however, it has become obvious that this is not the historical reality. Archaeological investigations have shown that many of the sites mentioned in these conquest stories turned out to be uninhabited during the assumed time of the conquest, that is 1200 BCE. Uninhabited. This is the case with Arad, Heshbon, Ai, and Yarmut. At other sites, there was only a small and unimportant settlement at the time, as at Jericho, and perhaps Hebron. Others, like Lachish and Chatzor, were indeed important Canaanite cities, yet they were not destroyed as part of the same military undertaking, since approximately 100 years separate the destruction of Chatzor in the mid-13th century from that of Lachish in the mid-12th century BCE. At other sites, the archaeological evidence is even more meager. It is thus now accepted by all that archaeology, in fact, contradicts the biblical account of the Israelite conquest as a discrete historical event led by one leader. Most scholars of the last generation regard the conquest narratives as a literary work of a much later time, designed to create a pan-Israelite national saga. Nonetheless, even this latter view does not exclude the possibility that certain conquest stories echo isolated, individual historical events. Excuse me, I have to cough. They do not exclude the possibility that certain conquest stories echo isolated individual historical events that may have occurred during the late second millennium BCE, though perhaps not specifically in relation to Israel as a nation or to Joshua as a military leader. Other stories seem to be ideologies rooted in situations relating to the period of the settlement. And this brings us to this final example today. The next week, we're going to talk more about Chatzor. Michael's going to get into Chatzor and then Mount Abal. And we'll talk about that next time. But we're going to finish up with this. Several examples provide more specific test cases for how ancient recollections of the past made their way into the later biblical narrative. The Bible's description of the conquest of Ai details its location. Ai, which is near Beth Aven to the east of Bethel in Joshua 7:2. Assuming the identification of Ai with modern Et Tel, the only prominent site east of Bethel is correct for the story of its conquest in Joshua 8 is negated by the archaeological finds. No. Assuming the identification of Ai with modern Et Tel, the only prominent site east of Bethel is correct. The story of the conquest in Joshua 8 is negated by the archaeological finds. Sad trombone.
Yeah.
No late bronze Canaanite city was found at this place or in its vicinity. Thus, the conquest narrative in Joshua 8 cannot be based on historical reality despite its topographical and tactical plausibility. The story can be explained, though, in light of the archaeological evidence at the site as an etiological story. An Iron One village was built above the prominent ruins of the much earlier fortified 3rd millennium early Bronze III city. And its inhabitants must have known of the older fortification, which was destroyed more than 1,000 years earlier, and whose ruins can be partly seen even today without excavation. It is reasonable to suppose that the story of the conquest of Ai was created by the Iron Age 1 settlers to explain the ruins upon which they had built their own village. Ai, the ruin. As the site was abandoned at the end of the Iron 1 period, the etiological story might have been created during the time of the settlement, 12th to 11th centuries BCE, and transmitted orally for centuries until it found its way into the biblical conquest narrative. The reason why Michael wants to set the focus on Bethel as opposed to Ai is because he actually knows this. He knows that at the time that he wants this story to take place, there's a ruin. There is a ruin at Ai and nothing else. So he suggests it's a mustering point. It's a place where people from the city of Bethel come and gather to, form the army and go out on campaigns. Importantly, just read the fucking text. It says that the city of Ai was entered by the invading horde of 30,000 Israelites. The city of Ai was burned by the 30,000 Israelites, attracting the attention of the army that's gone out pursuing Joshua and his forces. And they rush back to the city and are slaughtered. It says 12,000 people from the city of Ai. All the inhabitants of the city of Ai, men and women, are slaughtered. 12,000 people by the forces of Joshua, according to the biblical story. I'm just reading the text. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the archaeological record and saying, yeah, this just doesn't work. However, sure looks like somebody made up a story and exaggerated a whole bunch of shit about this place that they clearly identified as the ruin. They know what it is. Why can't you, Michael Jones? Why can't you read the text? Why can't...
He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to. You know what? This deserves a Protestant apologists fetishize the Bible. Stop it, Michael Jones. He's not going to listen to me. I know that because he's not going to bother with this. He didn't listen to Dan McClellan. He's not listened to me in the past. He's just going to continue to do this because this is what people who fetishize do. You don't learn anything. You don't correct. You don't investigate. You don't satisfy your curiosity, you just continue. You just continue to objectify the text. It's not important to you, except insofar as it satisfies your own religious systems. That's all it's doing. That's what this is. Just, this is the kind of shit that that just continues to frustrate me. This is why this channel is here. This is why I'm here. I actually love the text. I'm actually interested in what it has to say. And I'm actually interested in how it fits into this bigger puzzle of archaeology that informs us about the culture, the history, and the social systems of these time periods, not only when the text was written, but those in which it's reflecting backwards onto. It's fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's exciting. And we learn about this shit from actual scholars who are doing this work. Not just archaeologists, but biblical scholars as well, and historians. Michael doesn't care about any of that. He's got a narrative that he's promoting, and he's going to promote it with his full chest. And scholars be damned.
Also, people were asking about my huge fan. Sorry for the corporate branding, but it was free. It was free. So
look at that.
Go to your local Pride, and lots of people will be probably giving out fans. They may or may not be the size like that you can do little fan cracks like you do at drag shows, but hit that up because I have quite a collection of these massive sets of fans that you can just crack.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Thanks, Vish.
Nothing more satisfying than a good fan crack.
Right. We've got a member chat from Sarah. I don't think we have anything else. Thanks again, guys, for your generosity today and helping to keep things going here.
Okay. Gord says, you know all those apple trees in America? Guess what? One guy, Johnny Appleseed, planted all of them. I mean, how else would they have gotten there? We find apple trees all over North America. Duh.
Yeah, that's true.
Chrissy for 2. As a note, Negro's name is pronounced with the long E sound. So it's not Negro. Negro.
I understand. And I do it intentionally just because because it's sensitive. So, but again,
I mean, in a lot
Chrissy.
of Romance languages, negro is a color.
Mm-hmm.
It's been used, to denigrate people. However, I prefer to just pronounce his name Negro, like it is, but it's fine. Yeah. Galiadine was also a war criminal, according to recently published records of what occurred in 1948.
Sure was. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a really interesting, good parallel example from the modern age. Is people would go in and intentionally depopulate villages, and then just build another one right on top of it, or build or plant trees or something right on top of it, and that was done intentionally to like erase presence and all these other things from the people that were living there. So yeah.
And I'll say one more thing about Yagel Yadin, which is not nearly so serious, but still terrible. He probably stole the temple scroll. Because he after the 6-day war ended, Yagel Yadin dispatched agents to go get it from its rightful owner, Kando, who was holding on to it, and in the process of trying to broker a deal for its sale for $1 million. This was going to be Kando's retirement fund. He was going to sell the temple scroll and retire a rich man. Yagel Yadin entered his house and took it and never gave it back. Eventually, he paid Kando about $120,000. But I don't know, Vish, $120,000. That's not, I mean, it's not $1 million. which he absolutely, there was a deal. Like, I mean, Elizabeth Bechtel was prepared to pay $1 million for the Temple Scroll. The money was there. So, just saying. All right.
Well, if Mujahideen is, the war criminal that these recently published documents allege, well, yeah, it tracks that he would just bust into somebody's house and go, "This is mine now."
Yes. Tracks. So, yes.
Triceratops member for 2 months. Thanks for reading from sources we can't afford.
Absolutely. You bet. People
Also,
need to see this stuff. And
who have access to your local library, some of them will get institutional access to these papers. Not all of them, but many of them.
Yep.
I couldn't get access through my public library here in LA for a paper that I was needing, so I just reached out to my brother who works at Auburn University, and I was like, "Hey, can you get me a copy of this?" Because for whatever reason, it was only academic libraries that had it. So I was like, "All right."
See, I'm fortunate that I have a lot of friends in academia, and I can get just about anything I want. Yeah. So, yes, but it's my pleasure, and I feel it's my obligation as well. And you need to know, there's still, I was racing through a couple of things because I wanted to get through a substantial part of Michael's video. I've got plenty of additional scholarly citations that I set up to read to you today that are all saying the same things as Christian Frevel, as Amahai Mazar, as Israel Finkelstein, as I think those were the three I pulled today. Did I pull any others? I'm not sure that I did, but everybody is saying the same things about the conquest of Canaan. It did not happen.
Can you make a note?
The conquest
put those in the description
did not happen.
Afterwards.
The citations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That'll take me some time. I will try to get that done by the weekend, which brings me to what's going on over the next little while here on the channel. I will be back. Well, we'll be back. You and I, Vish, are going to be back tomorrow on Dapper Dinosaurs channel. I believe you're going to come, right? You'll be there.
As far as I know, I'm planning to be there.
Okay. I'll certainly be on Dapper's channel tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific, doing some shit, some Hebrew shit, I think. He showed us the thumbnail earlier today. It's funny. It's always fun going and hanging out with Dapper and Vish. So we'll be back there tomorrow. Tomorrow night, come back, everyone, at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific for the next installment of Budget Scripture Saturday. Nitty will be here. Dr. Tapioca Weasel will be here. It's going to be super fun. We are going to look at some stupider, equally as stupid shit as what Michael shared with us today, but also probably with some bad AI, which is always fun. And I'm going to be drinking, and it's always a good time. So come and hang out. It's a fun show. It's quickly becoming one of my favorites. And then I will be traveling this week, which means that on Thursday there will be no Kiryat Breed. There's no reading stream this Thursday, but Vish and I will be back on Friday for more of Michael Jones. So
Friday the 19th is also Juneteenth. So
yeah,
something thematically appropriate
for the 19th.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. But I'm with my travel plans, it's going to be very difficult for me to do any actual work. So, I've got
at my window.
What's that? What happened out your window?
Heard some nonsense outside my window. It's fine.
Oh dear. Okay, we're all good. So, okay. So, but we're regardless. Vish and I are going to be back on Friday. Nothing on Thursday, but we shall both be back on Friday. And yeah, so oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Thank you guys.
You're a fantastic for 20. Very generous. Every girl needs a fan or a fan club. Fans, any size, manual or electric.
True.
Handy.
It's very true. Good stuff. All right, you got anything else, Vish?
Nope, I'm just going to like a picnic festival type thing over at the Tar Pits. They're having a big community
that sounds awesome.
event that is free, and a chance to see a museum for free is always a really good time for me. So it'll be a chance for me to check out the grounds before they close it for a 2-year renovation project. So,
oh my God, for real? Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get over there.
I was just about to ask you, because I'm like, I would like to go see the Tar Pits.
Well, you got until
now,
the first week of July.
Well, damn, it's not.
You gotta wait 2 years.
2
like
years.
The excavations around the place will still be open, but they're going to be revamping like the museum and the big building center.
I feel like yeah. So it looks cool. It's a cool place to go and visit.
Lots of cool science and history happening there.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll get there. I mean, I guess it'll have to wait for 2 years, but we're going to get there. I wanted to flag this one because I did see it before. One of my objectives is to make a Bible animation that'll compel Dr. Davis to not react to AI on a future Budget Scripture Saturday stream.
Thank you.
Please. I'm happy for you to do so. That'll be great. All right. Well, we got to get out of here. So everyone is being redirected to I didn't mention it yet. Everyone's being redirected to Dapper's second channel, Top Hats Off, for the next installment of Star Trek Endurance, where I will be revising my role as the Viscount Lieutenant Vrelax, the Gorn science officer and stellar archaeologist aboard the USS Kongzi. So come and watch. It'll be a good time, but I have to grab something to eat and then get over there. So everyone,
go pack picnic lunch or dinner.
Yeah. Until next time, be good.
Be excellent to
Stay
each other.
safe. And God damn it, I forgot to pull this up. So I need to find the outro and then I will start again. I'm sorry.
Kip Davis has written nope.
That's really not that one. Okay. Here we go. Let's try this again. Until next time, be good, stay safe, and as always, hot tikva.